9 out of 10 times, difficult clients are simply clients that don't feel heard or understood. They want to be involved, but maybe they don't have the right language to express their needs, right? Or they had a bad experience in the past and are hyper vigilant because of it. Transparency is your best friend. You're not selling a service, you're selling peace of mind. There are people out there, and I run into them all the time. We call them the Karens of the community. They're the gatekeepers, right? Everyone knows they're difficult. Think about the ones that have the perfect lawns, the perfect house, and they're the most scrupulous, consumers. Breaking through on her and delivering value to, Karen or Ken or whatever, all right, signals to everyone around that they can do business with you.
Welcome back to the Contractor AI podcast, the show that helps you, the hardworking contractor, builder, or home service pro, streamline your business and crush your goals. I'm your host, Johnny V, and today we're diving into a topic that every contractor has faced, but not everyone has mastered: how to win over difficult clients in contracting. Jay, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Let's jump right into this.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, let's face it. Difficult clients can be the difference between a smooth running project and one that has you up at 3 a.m. worrying about everything that you shouldn't be worrying about, right? And your life choices. Not that I've never been there, right?
Yeah. How many times we've sat there with our heads in our hands.
Right. But what if I told you that handling tough clients doesn't have to be stressful? What if you could turn those challenging clients into your biggest fans? So I think today we're going to break down kind of some of my top secrets for winning over the most demanding customers without, bending over backwards and taking it from behind, right?
I think if I can slow you down at some point through this one, that I might have a couple of things to add to it too.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I think first things first, let's define what it means to be a difficult client in the contracting world. We've all dealt with clients that are overly picky, constantly making changes to their, having changes in their work, changing their mind, and seem impossible to please, right? But here's the thing: 9 out of 10 times, difficult clients are simply clients that don't feel heard or understood.
Oh, you nailed it. Now I have nothing to say. Okay, go.
They want to be involved. They want to be involved, but maybe they don't have the right language to express their needs, right? Or they had a bad experience in the past and are hyper vigilant because of it.
Yeah. Or just don't communicate their emotions and how they feel about things.
Right. Your job's not really to hammer nails, install beautiful countertops. It's to dig beneath the surface and figure out what's really driving the difficult behavior, right? Is it fear? Is it uncertainty? Once you know that, you can adjust, and it just takes a little bit different.
Are we contractors? Are we therapists?
Right.
It's kind of a balance between the two, isn't it?
Right. So I think here's a couple of keys to this, and it's really important that we're building this in and training it to our teams. But it's so important to win your client over, even difficult clients. Start doing it and building trust before you even make the sale. Okay. Good marketing, good communication, clear messaging, clear offers, clear contracts, clear everything will lead a lot more to building trust before we actually get to that job. So one of the biggest problems I see day in and day out, all right, is the sales to production handoff. Sales guys go in, owner goes in, really excited about getting the contract, says some things that maybe he shouldn't, wasn't very clear, didn't have a system or a process of explaining contract, budget, scope, and there was some gray areas. Not to say that this is you who's listening, but it could be, all right? And then we have no way to really handle how to deal with that.
We weren't even aware that we disappointed the client at that time.
Right. So in my opinion, transparency is your best friend. All right. You're not selling a service, you're selling peace of mind. And that's something we really, really think about, closely. Is transparency exists between your teams, All right. I know some of you guys are resistant to having, parts of your business understand the budgets, understand what has been said, what's transpired, making that script, making sure that we're not saying things that can't be delivered. All right. It's very, very much a trust thing. And again, you have to look, if you're having problems on your job sites with difficult customers more frequently than you should, you need to go back and see where the trust is being broken right off the bat. Now, let me give you a good example of this, all right, especially in home services. So your ad that goes out to attract this customer shows uniformed guys and a uniformed a wrap truck and professionals, obvious professionals showing up at the door to do this service. And then you send along, Lenny the sub that's filthy, wearing another company's t-shirt, and just completely let them down at the very onset. Then your sales guy can't understand why the customer is so upset and has decided to stand over the guys while they're doing the work. Well, is that the client's fault or is that your fault?
Of course, it's a relationship management issue, and it is.
Absolutely.
It's on you as the contractor.
Totally. So all too often what I see is that most contractors don't even realize the mistake and they continue to repeat it over and over again. So their message to the market is, hey, you can trust me. I am a professional. Here's what my guys, my trucks, my service looks like. And then they just completely neglect to deliver that. So once the money's been collected, the job's been agreed to, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde. And remember something. We're in the post-trust era. All right. Nobody trusts anybody. Okay. If you don't learn to embrace that and to understand that that is the source of a lot of problems in all contracting and will continue to be for the foreseeable future, you're just simply not going to grow and expand the way that you want to. All right. And again, image matters. These things matter. The details matter. Okay. Especially to a customer that's already on edge, and especially in home services. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah,
you are an intruder in their home. Right. And again, there's no other way for us to separate it until otherwise proven differently. Right. So again, these things are miscommunications that are preventable, and it just comes down to delivering what you promise. Right.
Right. I would even like to add about not just promising things that you're not delivering on, but just being open about the communication, pointing the elephant out in the room. And that's goes a long way to winning over that client. Did I get ahead of you there?
Well, no, not really. But we just had I think last week we discussed, how to keep your contracts clear, right? And the importance of having clear communication. Right. Your contracts are just as important, right? So let your contracts do some of the talking for you, and make sure that, again, we're using transparency. We're pointing the customers and explaining to them how our contracts work. If you're out there selling a customer and allowing salespeople to say whatever they need to say to get a contract closed, you're opening yourself up for these kind of problems. Yeah. And fortunately, it's going to be your production. It's going to be your profit and bottom line that's going to absorb these problems, right? And it's not the customer's fault, because you've already set up a situation or an environment where trust is lost, right? So again, transparency is through and through. Transparency between production and sales, transparency between operations and production. All of these things lead to a better client experience and more trust, and less bad clients, as we would call them, right?
Yeah.
So maybe secret number 3, all right? The power of active listening, right? Now, I know active listening is kind of, it's a catch
let's
term.
Define that one, just to be clear on what it is, because it's a loose term.
Yeah, it's actually where the magic happens, though, right?
Right.
It's like, I'm not talking about just nodding your head and agreeing with everything that they say. I mean, like, really listening. What's their tone? What are the words that they're emphasizing? What's their body language telling you, right? You just want to make sure that it's done right. You want to make sure that what they're really saying is the thing that they're having an issue with, right? And I'm afraid I could go on and on about this particular topic, right? But
for sure,
we need to first acknowledge their concerns. Repeat back what you're hearing, all right? confirm you understand with them. All right. And again, I'm going to give you an example. Yes, so I could see how that would be, really upsetting having Lenny, the subcontractor, here at your home. I completely understand. Can you tell me how is that interfering with your trust in me to perform this work?
Right.
All right.
Which is important. You're giving feedback to what
Absolutely.
the way they feel and the way their emotions are.
And we have to use empathy in that situation. Somebody's upset. Somebody is, again, lashing back at you. It's not necessarily, like I said, it's not necessarily the first things that come out of their mouth in that situation. You have to use your active listening skills to get to the real problem. Because if you don't, again, this is only going to become progressively worse. And I see it all the time where guys just take the surface value of what they're saying. So, they're concerned about the quality of work. They call on a Friday and they're furious about the quality of work. Again, I can trace it right back to, well, do they trust the crew that's there?
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Maybe
Has
they
somebody
witnessed something, or
have they? Yeah, exactly. Have they seen something, or did something happen to give them those reasons to say that? Right? And then we're going to start to ask them questions of, well, why did that? Why was that not to your expectations? How did that, change your opinion about our company? And those are the real things you want to get to the bottom of, because a lesson not learned is a lesson you will repeat again. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that at any point, speaking about recovery, is that having that conversation and being honest about the way you feel, but more importantly, trying to understand the way the other person feels. Mm-hmm. It's an uncomfortable conversation. A lot of people try to avoid it.
Yep.
Right. But the best thing to do in that situation is say the uncomfortable, because to be quite honest, if you're carrying through the project on impulse and everybody's reacting on their, on their
Johnny,
emotions.
You're reading my mind, brother. You're reading my mind. So let's talk about that. What about proactive communication? Being proactive rather than waiting for there to be a problem. All right. And waiting for a customer to reach out to you. Why not just set up a couple of touch points where you can read the temperature? And again, I can't stress to you how easy this is. So when you're taking the customer's temperature, and we call these, they're just check-in calls. I mean, our sales reps do an amazing job of this, right? Those small touch points where something may have been misunderstood or there might have been a miscommunication, but you're proactively reaching out to them to read that and addressing them before they have to reach out to you. Yeah. And therefore taking responsibility and accountability for the situation and ensuring things are going to be run smoothly. Again, such an easy thing, an email, a conversation, a phone call could save you a world of pain throughout that project, especially if it's an extended, long project. We're not off on the right foot. Maybe some things happen, and I got a real quick story for this one as well, but I can't tell you again how much those small touches, those small things that you do just help you to, alleviate all these problems that can encounter, right? But letting them go and just waiting for your customer to be pissed off and just, ignoring these things is going to lead. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So it also tells the customer whether you're in control of the job or not. All right. And that's really one of the biggest fears they have is you're not in control, that they've been sold something where nobody's got control and it's their home. And very quickly, imaginations can fly, tempers can fly, depending on who you're dealing with. And all of a sudden things start to escalate and we don't want that.
Yeah. In their mind, it's self-preservation at that point, right? That's how they're behaving.
That's right. And again, if you're having 2 or 3 of these a year, that's too many. Okay, that means that you need to look very carefully at your process, your system. All right. And it's funny that a 2-minute phone call a couple times throughout the job, all right, is going to lead to a couple of really great things. Number one is your customer is going to have full trust in you and feel like you've got control of the job. All right. Even when things go wrong or mess up, they're not going to remember that. They're going to remember how they felt and that they felt secure while we were doing the project. Very, very easy. And this is going to lead to happier customers, more referrals. Oh, yeah. Again, it just nothing makes up for it. And you're not playing defense. All right. We want to play offense. We want to be in control. We want to be ahead of anything or any situation that could occur where a customer is potentially unhappy. And it, again, easily built into our processes, easily built into systems. again, as long as you're willing to put that effort forward and making sure that you're taking care of your customers the right way, the way you want to be
Right.
treated. Right.
And the truth is, they're not going to remember what you did. They'll remember how you made them feel.
Right. So all this is fine and dandy, but we also need to set boundaries, but with grace. Okay. So let's just be real here. Sometimes there's clients that push too far, right? They ask for extras without paying. They call you all hours. They start micromanaging your team. The secret here,
alpha dog syndrome.
Right?
That's all it is.
Yeah. We got to set some boundaries, but we got to do it with grace. One way to set boundaries is by framing your response in terms of their best interest. So like, I'm going to give you an example. If a client's asking for work outside of the scope of the contract, try saying, I'd love to help you with that, but in order to keep the project on schedule within the budget, let's focus on what's already planned. If you want to add more work, we can definitely discuss it, but I want to make sure that we're prioritizing your key goals.
Well said.
See what I did right there?
Well said.
Right? We're keeping focus on their goals, not shutting them down, all right? But boundaries with empathy, all right? And that can be done a lot of different ways. I wanted to kind of frame that one and how we can resolve it. And it's all, again, communication, right? Teaching your team how to communicate. So not stopping a job and immediately responding or being reactive to a customer's request, all right? You know, especially with those change work orders and remodeling, I see it all the time, especially with newer contractors where they're so eager and so determined to please their customer that they're forfeiting their business's future by doing it, right? And again, you have to be able to draw boundaries. And again, these are just pro tips, right? This is how the pros are dealing with it, how they're managing it, right? So the other thing is handling objections with confidence, right? So let's think about this for a second. You inevitably face objections, right? Whether it's about pricing, timelines, or how you're approaching a specific part of the job, right? Yep. The trick here is to embrace the objection as an opportunity. You're not just a contractor, you're a problem solver. And when a client says, I don't like the price, they're not just being difficult, they're concerned about the value. So reframe it, right?
Yeah.
Try saying, I understand the price is important, but let's talk about what this investment gets you. Peace of mind, quality workmanship, and no concerns, right? No cut corners. Remind them of why they chose you in the first place. So a lot of times we stop objection handling in the sale. It's wise to teach your project managers the same lessons you're going to teach your sales reps on how to handle objections. We don't argue. We are not combative. All right. We're always going to agree with them first. It's our job to disarm them. All right. If you're just thinking constantly disarming your client, whether they're upset, whether they're being difficult, whether they're having a hard time choosing, all right, our job is to disarm them. So everything I'm sharing with you is a way of disarming them and reducing, the resistance that we're facing. All right. So a difficult customer most of the time is really nothing more than not being able to handle their objections. All right. And then we escalate, and then things get out of hand, things get said, actions get taken, and lo and behold, now we're in a nightmare situation. And I always hear the same response. Well, they did this and they did that. No, stop. Just stop right there. Let's get back.
It is always that.
It's always excuses why. Yeah. And that's just such a below the line way to think about it. All right. And I would never allow my team to use the excuses, even if the customer was. We don't sit around and name all the things they did. Yeah, but they did this and they wanted that. No. We go back to, okay, well, at what point did things change, right? At what point was there the misunderstanding? And at what point did we fail to, communicate, right? And what do we have to learn from it? How can we prevent this from happening again? And a lot of times it's that things like I just read to you. Oh, okay. We get back to the source. There was one conversation that happened in the midst of hundreds when you've spoken to both sides that set something off. And then we're going to teach our team and we're going to learn from it. And the really smart guys, they keep a log of these. All right. We call them objection handles. Whether you're in sales or whether you're a project manager, you should have a book of objection handles. all right, and situations where you can go back to, all right. And I have one sitting right by my computer right now. Again, I've done it my whole career where, I'm faced with something, I'm like, oh, that's different, and maybe I struggled. All right, well, I'm gonna make sure the next time I come across it that I don't struggle and that I have a way of dealing with that situation. The same thing should be in your operations manuals and everything that you're teaching forward to your people. These things are so valuable. Again, I can't tell you, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars possibly have been, saved or made
It's
as
hard
a
to
result.
quantify.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, we just take that for granted. And a lot of times contractors go in, being unable to communicate well in the first place, all right, for whatever reasons. And then they continue on treating their customers as if, they're
Constantly defending themselves.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't help anything, right? Like, again, if you're taking these things personally, like, you have to have a system of actually managing those things, right? So, the other big thing that I find a lot of times is it's just follow through, right? Turning a difficult client into a, lifelong advocate. It comes down to follow through. Now, I want to share a really
Doing
cool
what you say
story.
you're going to do.
Yeah. So, like, the most important thing here is that we follow through. It's not enough just to get through the project. Your goal is to turn the difficult client into a lifelong advocate for your business.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That means checking in after the job is done, addressing any lingering concerns, and making sure they're 100% satisfied. You might even send them a handwritten thank you note, a gesture of appreciation.
I like that.
If you can take a tough client and deliver beyond their expectations, not only will they hire you again, they will tell everyone about you. And this, again, really see it for the opportunity that it is. Okay.
It's amazing.
And again, absolutely. And it's because people do know, like, there are people out there, and I run into them all the time. We call them the Karens of the community. They're the gatekeepers, right? Everyone knows they're difficult. Think about the ones that have the perfect lawns, the perfect house, and they're the most scrupulous, consumers. Breaking through on her and delivering value to, Karen or Ken or whatever, all right, signals to everyone around that they can do business with you. All right.
You get an overwhelming amount of loyalty out of a resolved, conflicted situation.
So crazy. I want to share a very, very direct story about this that happened to me recently. We had a client, okay, and right away, he was determined to work through me rather than the sales rep on this job. And we had a manufacturer defect with some material. So, what started off really good and we were communicating, I wasn't happy about being the first point of contact. Yeah. And again, I had drawn my boundaries and I said, hey, listen, you have to deal with our project managers, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was never satisfied with that. So I did what was right. And I continued to, draw my boundary. All right. And make sure he worked through the project managers. But when the problem came up with the manufacturer defect, which was 100% on us, all right, he was quite upset. This was a brand new home, all right, and it's a very, very expensive metal roof. And there was shading in our material because our guys had mixed up a coil, all right?
Got it.
And I remember him calling me on my cell phone like over and over and over again. And I was on a call, but finally I picked up the call and he just unloaded, called me everything under the sun. And he was furious. So once I got him calmed down, I neutralized him, got him, back on my side. I reassured him that, listen, if we were responsible, I didn't know if I was responsible at that time or not. If I was responsible for it, that he could rest assured that it would be 100% taken care of. Now, we had to get the manufacturer involved. It was a whole long dispute, but we followed through. I could have very many times just handed him back his money. We weren't even done the roof. And there was a million ways I could have walked away from it. There were delays. He had a whole year of delays on his project where I had clauses to exit that agreement. Okay. So again, not planned well on his side. He was his own GC. There was a whole bunch of things, but nothing took away the fact that I, at the end of the day, had to follow through and take the position of he's a customer first.
Okay? You're right.
Yeah. And as difficult it was for me to swallow, before the manufacturer agreed that it was their fault, I replaced the entire roof. I had our whole team and we replaced it all. Again, if you know your numbers, all right, that's painful. But at the end of the day, that's why customers go with us, is peace of mind. I was capable and I had enough profit in my other jobs that I could cover a full roof and it's no sweat, right? We replaced that entire roof. Okay. He was still unhappy at the end for the time that it took. And rightfully so, right? And we had agreed that he didn't want us to do any more work on his home. We'd taken too long. He was just really upset. No problem. But I did exactly what I just said. I continued to follow up. I gave him thank you letters. I reached out to him personally because I knew that work on his home, he was going to have a very hard time finding another contractor to come and do. Yes. It was some coping flashing and brick flashing. And he did try to hire someone to do it. It was this aluminum guy that didn't know how to put on coping flashing. So 6 months goes by and I get a call on a Saturday morning. Jay, I have a problem. What's your problem? My roof is leaking. I'm like, all right. So lo and behold, we actually sent the service team out that day, got down there. His aluminum contractor didn't actually install the cope flashing. He had a brand new kitchen and the snow was sitting on top of the parapet wall and leaking right into his $300,000 kitchen. So we very quickly did what was right again. We did the repairs, ice and water shield, fixed the roof. And I'm sure he was expecting an astronomical bill. All right. I actually charged him exactly what I'd priced him for when we first started out. I shook his hand. Thank you very much. I went and seen him myself. And ironically, about 2 weeks ago, I get a big, huge project from one of his family members. So what's that tell you? Right.
Yeah.
And this is a project double the size of the one that he already shared with us. All those problems. I had to replace an entire roof. I had to, we had defects. We had these yelling, screaming matches. Again, and because he didn't want to deal with the project manager, there was obviously again a situation where I was pulled into it, and I wasn't clear at what the sales had been due, but I knew what the contract said. I knew how to handle this guy. And again, at the end of the day, good can always come from bad because he still trusts us. He still trusts us enough to have one of his parents do business with us. All right. Because we did the right thing. All right. And because we maintained boundaries, we maintained professionalism. Okay. I didn't get kicked around in the situation. I did exactly what my contract said. And I went over and beyond to deliver to a bad client. And in most people's eyes, they would have walked away, the second they were being name called and everything else. For me, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't bother me.
No, and it shows that you have a bit of a higher, emotional intelligence, and you have the ability to control your emotions a little bit better. I think
I've earned that. Hasn't been that way my whole life. I tell you that.
No, but it's a learned behavior, and that's the thing, right? Like emotional control is a learned behavior, and once you figure that out, it's the moon. The way you can navigate these things. I mean, essentially, this gentleman here, from what you're telling me, just stuck his neck out to reference you to a family member.
Yeah,
and we got the job.
There was and we won the job. So again, after all of that and that bad of an experience, what does he remember?
That's it. He just remembers the way he felt great at the end.
Did the job get done properly? Yes. Right. Did I stand by and even when it wasn't in my favor, I did what was right. All right. And again, if you want to be a good contractor, if you want to be around a long time, all right, remember that, right? Every situation and every problem that you encounter is an opportunity to learn and improve and get better, all right? Or it's an opportunity for you to repeat it indefinitely until you do.
And if you have value in that, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and find out what contractors like you are doing to level up their business.